Hey, welcome back to Even More News. I'm Katy.
Wow, I'm Cody.
Wow. Hi, Cody.
Holy wow.
Holy wow. Happy tax day.
Happy Tax Day.
As of this recording.
Yeah, happy belated tax day if you're listening to this.
Yeah, I hope you all got those taxes filed. I sure filed an extension.
I sure will be doing my taxes.
I believe you.
Yeah.
How's your day going?
It's going fine.
Yeah?
Nothing to write home about or podcast about, I guess.
Well, your power's out.
My power is out.
That's some news.
Yeah, my power goes out every few weeks
It's true.
To fix various electrical issues in the building and update the power.
It's just you would think they would do it all at once, but it has been like a years-long thing.
They keep finding out, I think, that they need to update it to get up to code. Because they come in and they add some outlets and then they leave, and then a few weeks later oh, we gotta fix the panel, we gotta do this. Okay, so they come in and they do that, and then they're like, okay, well we gotta update it more. So just every few weeks.
Well, that's fun.
It is
That's
fun.
really
It's
fun.
really
You get to get to know the workers in this building.
And because the power is so weird in this building, when they turn off the power in my unit, one of the outlets still works.
Yeah. So he's got his coffee pot plugged in next to his laptop on top of the stove because that's the only outlet that works right now.
It's working.
Well, that's great. Don't let them know. They'll turn it off.
Oh, God. All right. How's your day?
My day has been interesting, a little rough, to be honest.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Oh, really?
Well, should I ask you about it?
I think you should.
Maybe we were planning on talking about this.
Yeah, maybe casually ask me about it to lead me into it.
Your day. Oh, what happened in your day?
Well, it turns out that I got into a little bit of a Twitter beef with pal of the cast, Ben Shapiro, everyone's favorite human being.
Well, just because he's good.
Just because he's so good at life and being kind.
Is your spat over? Or are you still going to engage? Or are you done?
I plan on responding again to add clarity to what my intention had been once I got a little bit of space from it, because Ben Shapiro laying into you on Twitter out of left field is a little bit breathtaking, because I don't know if you guys know, but his followers suck. And so I needed to step away from it for a bit, and then I'm gonna
get away from the thousands of replies.
Yeah, because, well, listen, I stand behind what I tweeted, but I did not express my intention, my sentiment properly, because I didn't actually expect him to see it. So
okay, so let's go through it.
Let's go through. Yeah.
All right. So Alyssa Nutting tweeted, "My daughter started crying at the dentist office because the dentist is a boy, and the dentist said, 'Sorry, there are no girl dentists at this office.' And my daughter looked at me and said, 'Why did we come here?'"
Right.
So, okay, your daughter is upset because she wants a woman dentist, and there are none.
And there are none in this office. And then Ben...
Your daughter's crying. So Ben's response to this woman's daughter crying because she wants a woman dentist is... "Perhaps you should have informed your daughter that as of 2014, 47.7% of all dental students were women, rather than letting her believe that your unrepresentative dentist office is an indicator of widespread sexism."
Right. So...
And you responded.
Well, I'll say first, here's my reaction to that tweet. What he's proposing is talking down to his daughter and essentially treating her like his political opponent. That's how he tries to own people online. It's stating this fact and whatever. But what it really is doing is dismissing the little girl's problem, which is that she doesn't feel comfortable with a male dentist. And that's not the case for all women, but me specifically, I've never been comfortable with a male dentist, male doctors, gynecologists, all of it. I'm not someone, I only have female doctors. And maybe that's backwards, but it's also a product of our society and everything. So what he's doing here is just dismissing what these little girls' emotions are. But instead of saying that, I said, don't have kids. And listen, I know as little about Ben Shapiro's personal life as possible. So I guess apparently he does have kids.
Yeah, not anymore. Now you know that.
Now I know that, unfortunately. And then he responded to me with,
he responded, "Sorry, already have 2, including a 4-year-old daughter I will raise to believe she is capable of anything rather than a victim in the least sexist society in world history."
which set off a barrage of the most disgustingly sexist comments and mean, vitriolic comments and messages and DMs, and also now going into a lot of my Instagram pictures and commenting. Yeah, and it's like so overwhelming and shocking. Okay, I shouldn't have said don't have kids. You know what? And that's a thing, and that's a lesson that I'm going to learn here. I didn't expect him to see it or acknowledge it. And I thought it was funny. I mean, it was whatever. It's kind of funny. It was just a thing that you say.
And it's a pared down version of what you thought about. Like,
yes.
It was like, well, you're treating her like this when really, like, this is her problem.
Yeah.
So maybe you should, like, listen to your daughter more.
Yeah, have some compassion and empathy, and try to understand things from her perspective. But I didn't say any of that.
Also, like he said, like 47% of women in 2014 were dentists, but like I think like 32% of women are dentists.
Yes, it's
in
not
2018. So
right.
like, come on, Ben.
Yeah, and it's once again him cherry picking a fact that he thinks proves his point, and then people just responding.
First of all, like he's saying don't be upset about this because we're the least sexist society in the world history is like so ridiculous to me.
It
like,
is so ridiculous.
Don't complain about the way things are because they're not as bad as other things.
Right. Like I am grateful that it is not as bad here as it is elsewhere, but that doesn't mean it isn't still a problem.
Sorry, that's logic and reason for you. And like also he says, rather than a victim in the least sexist society in world history. Does he mean like American society?
Right.
Or does he just mean like where we are all now globally, like as a people, like because...
Or does he mean the American Dentalist Society?
Right. Does he mean the American Dental... Like, what does he mean when he says we're the least sexist society in world history?
Yeah.
Where are you getting your information there?
Yeah, that's just your opinion, man. Yeah, I guess my lesson here is that quote from Princess Bride, don't go to war with a Sicilian when death is on the line.
I was going to say exactly that when I saw this.
I know what my lesson is be prepared to for this, or don't do it.
Right. Don't do it, or like articulate your point.
Or like, articulate my point.
What your point is true, like, and good. And
thank you.
Yeah. And maybe he would respond to it. I don't know. Probably not. Because he seems to have an affinity towards like just like destroying people instead of actually like really like engaging with them. But like, don't treat your daughter like a political opponent in a debate with you, Ben.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just gonna say, dads don't care about your feelings. That is what is happening here. He says facts don't care about your feelings all the time, but you know, people should, and dads should. And if your daughter's crying because she doesn't get a woman dentist because that's how she's going to feel more comfortable.
Right.
Don't be like, well, actually, if you look in the statistics for 2014 in the dental school, there are a lot of girls, because like that's not her issue. It's just really like a disingenuous reading of it.
Yeah, that little girl wasn't like, maybe the mom's point was that there should be more female dentists in, you know, available, but that wasn't the daughter's point. So that's not how you would talk to her about it. Right. That's all.
Well, actually, daughter, did you know?
Did you know? Sure, Dad. Fuck you. Doesn't change the current situation. But it is very indicative of who he is. Not only that action, but all of his followers and how they are so abusive and personal and aggressive.
Yeah, they take after him.
Yeah, which is like that story you were telling me.
Yeah, so there was that shooting in Quebec. This person shot up a mosque.
Right.
And
a while back.
And killed, I want to say 6 people, but I don't have it in front of me. So I'm just going to say an amount of people that's more than 0. So the person turned out to be this, I'm going to say, racist white guy who was, big MAGA guy. Very, obviously anti-immigrants and, just all the things that one might imagine a guy in a MAGA hat shooting up a mosque would believe in.
Sure, yeah.
And in court, they released his social media follows, like who he engages with the most. And it's, a lot of alt-right figures. Richard Spencer was in there. On the very top was Ben Shapiro, the most engaging. He checked his feed the most, retweeted him the most,
Right.
was the biggest fan of him. And like everyone else on the list was like a Richard Spencer type or like a Stefan Molyneux, who
Right.
They're not like all the same people with the same ideas, but they've got similar ideas.
Sure.
And they sort of like run in the same pack of thoughts. Like if Richard Spencer, I think I talked about this on an old show, like Richard Spencer can say that like Africa is better off because of slavery, and someone's like, well, can you honestly say that like if we didn't intervene there and like take slaves, that they wouldn't be better off? And he's like, yeah, of course. And he can say that, and then Ben Shapiro says that same sentiment in a different way. So they all have this sort of Ayn Randian view of
vile bullshit,
of, like race and people and but anyway, so like whatever. So this guy was a big fan of Ben's, and that's not to say that like it's Ben's fault and like he is to blame for this awful thing that happened, but it's worth noting who follows you.
Yes.
And who gravitates towards your message, who are the type of people that agree with you and hang on your every word. And it's not just this one kid, it's not this one guy who did this unconscionable thing. It's many of his followers. If you look at the replies, there are some quote reasonable people who are just like, well, you know, the fact is this and this and this and this. But then there's some like awful racists who follow him for the same reason. And again, like this isn't saying like we should blame Ben for doing this or for saying this.
But you have to be able to pinpoint and look at it honestly. Like this is just a fact.
Right. There's an element of like introspection that it should warrant for somebody. I mean, if you have a public platform and you have a huge audience, and if you quote tweet a person and then thousands of people attack that person, then you have some semblance of responsibility for the things that you say.
You sent the dogs on them or whatever. Like you told them to attack, essentially. You endorsed it.
And he's not, and you know, he knows this.
Yes,
and
he does.
Everyone knows that that is true if you have an enormous platform. And he can argue that it doesn't matter, but he can't argue that like he doesn't know, or like you can say, "Oh, I didn't tell them to harass her." Well, but you know who these people are, and you know what they do. You know that if you quote tweet a person, specifically a woman, then they will get hounded by some really awful vitriolic people, and just that is true. And maybe it's a good time to reflect on the things that you say based off of who gravitates towards those things and how they act to other people.
Exactly.
I don't think he will.
No,
I think he might say, oh, well, if that's true, then Bernie Sanders is responsible for the Congress baseball shooting. Well, that's also not the same thing, Ben. And I think you know that there's a difference between Bernie Sanders saying that like we should all have health care and Republicans are trying to make it so we don't all have health care, and you saying that like Arabs love to bomb people and live in sewage, which is literally a tweet of yours. Yeah. And when you claim that the majority of Muslims in America are radicalized Muslims.
It's irresponsible.
It's irresponsible. And you are a person who constantly talks about like taking responsibility for your actions, but you also should probably take responsibility for your words and for your audience.
Yeah. So yeah.
Dads don't care about your feelings.
For me, I'm like, okay, I want to be better than that. I'm going to be aware of how I'm responding to people, the power of my words. That's a takeaway for me from this. Also takeaways, and I'm grateful for our followers who aren't like this.
Right. And like, I mean, there's, you know, obviously the discourse on Twitter is difficult, and sometimes it involves like, you know, aggressive language and stuff. And I'm trying to be better about like being just snarky.
You're very good about it.
I'm trying. Thank you. I'm trying to, because like this kid DM'd me after I responded to one of Ben Shapiro's tweets, and he said, "You're a fucking loser. Enjoy the next 4 years, asshole." Followed by, "You're such a pathetic guy. You aren't intelligent enough for discourse. That's why I won't even think of debate Ben, you 40K bum. Put up or shut up." So like I could have responded in a myriad of funny ways. But I was like, hey, Nick, I regularly point out times when Ben's arguments are weak or when he just lies or gets his facts wrong. Ben doesn't respond to me. I don't know what you mean by I'm not willing to debate him.
I'm trying.
And also, like, this is a separate conversation, but a live debate is not the only way to debate. And we need to put this whole idea of like, I challenge you to a live debate. Oh, you don't want to. I win. That needs to be put to rest. That's not how any of this works.
I do agree with that. Although, Ben, if you want to have a debate.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Cody would do it. I wouldn't.
And so I was like, yeah, I do this. And he doesn't respond. Also, like, you aren't intelligent enough for discourse. Dude, you led with you're a fucking loser. Enjoy the next 4 years, asshole. Also, it's 2018. That's not how long terms are.
Right.
In 2018, you can't say enjoy the next 4 years because that's not how long presidential terms are. And so on and so forth. And I just sort of explained, like, I was like, hey, what did you mean by this? Did you really mean this thing? When you say, hey, you're a 40K bum, you have 309 followers. So what do you mean by that? Does like the number of followers grant some sort of inherent and immediate value to my ideas?
Plenty of people with more followers than you, Ben Shapiro included, are idiots.
So like I sent him this long thing and then he's like, oh, hey, thanks for the response. I'm sorry I was rude.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he's like, I just think that it's not fair to call him racist. And I was like, okay, well, he has a history of saying things like this and this and this. And I was like, I'd love to share an article with you if you're willing to read it. And he's like, yeah, okay, send it to me. So I sent an article about it. So like that's an example.
That's actually a really good story.
Yeah,
that surprised me.
You thought this was going to take a turn?
Yeah, I thought it did take a turn.
It took a different turn.
A turn for the better.
Yeah, and I think that's an example of like, okay, well, people can be rude, and then you respond somewhat reasonably.
That's a lesson for us all. Thank you for giving a good positive end to this.
Yeah,
we can be better online.
The period to this sentence is a plus sign.
That seems like a good way to transition.
Yeah.
Moment to transition. Let's talk about Lion James Comey.
Oh, Lion James Comey.
Good old Lion James Comey.
What a time to really come back into the spotlight and give this interview that we all needed.
And say very little.
Way to go.
Way to go, bro.
Bro.
I hated that interview. I hated it. And I think that in all fairness, I was being extra, like I was definitely looking for things to be mad about because I don't like James Comey very much. But it seemed like a waste of all of our time. He didn't say anything except that he thinks he's morally unfit to be the president.
Whoa.
Morally unfit.
Wait. Who is morally unfit?
Donald Trump.
He's what?
Morally unfit.
To be what?
President.
Of what?
The United States.
Which is a
country.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should continue this podcast. I need to lay down and take a couple of naps.
To process all of that information.
Apparently Donald Trump is morally unfit to be president.
Yeah, go figure.
So, all right.
After billing it as something that was going to be this huge bombshell of an interview with lots of revelations, there were no revelations. And it also is maddening how little responsibility he takes for himself. He doesn't regret anything. There's one point where he said he felt queasy to think about that he might have influenced the election.
You did, man.
You did, man.
You did.
I'm funny as he was like, you have to remember at the time, a lot of people thought that I'd elected him president. Yeah, you fuck. We still do. We currently think that.
During all of the times.
And when he was asked, do you regret not saying more to the president? We asked for his loyalty. He says, maybe. I don't know. He doesn't express any remorse. And that's very frustrating. What are you doing here?
Yeah, right. Because also he had a year.
Yeah,
and that's. I mean, obviously he's doing this now because of his book and he wants to sell his book. So maybe his higher loyalty is to money. Everyone. That's whatever you got to do. Go get yours. Money makes the world go around in the saddest way possible. Like you had a year to really think about this and really process it and. You say, some people thought I helped get him elected. Everyone thinks that. Yeah. And so, when he's asked these questions in this interview, part of him is like, Well, like, have you seriously not thought about this yet? You wrote a whole book about it, man.
And you knew that these were going to be the questions asked, too.
Right. Right. Also, like, yeah, you're being interviewed by Bill Clinton's former communications director.
Right.
And, like, senior advisor for several years.
Yeah.
Which also, like, come on.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody else. Right. It doesn't have to be Sean Hannity, but maybe not the senior advisor to Bill Clinton. Like,
I am interested in seeing his Rachel Maddow interview. I love Rachel Maddow. I know you are frustrated with her sometimes. And I get that. I get it too. But I just am always impressed by her. You know, this whole lie in James Comey on the GOP, I don't know if you've seen this, or maybe it's the RNC, have created a website called Lion James Comey, which is so embarrassing that they are just adopting his terminology, just going all in. But, I didn't think he was a liar up until I heard him say that he thought the president had above average intelligence.
Oh my God.
Because I don't know, that's a big fucking lie. And he also said that he asked for his loyalty in between the salad and the shrimp scampi, and that the president doesn't eat salad. So right there are two big holes in his story.
You just blew this wide open.
I just blew it wide open, y'all.
Nice try, former director of the FBI, James Comey.
Go buy his book.
Go buy his book. Help him
get some
achieve his higher loyalty. Yeah, it was a little frustrating to watch. One thing I did notice was these because there were these moments where, like, I don't know. Do you regret it? I don't know. Was it a mistake? I don't know. Maybe. Like, when I thought about it. So there's a lot of those moments, but at least a couple of times when he was asked a question about whether he made a mistake, and he would end up talking around it.
Yeah.
But every time he was asked that, he would shift his weight and uncross his legs and recross them.
That's such a fascinating thing that you picked up on. You've discovered his tell.
He's got a tell. He's not the straight-laced, straight-faced, straight shooter that we all thought that he was.
We should play poker with James Comey.
Yeah. Good cards? How your legs doing, Jimmy? That's like whatever. I'm not gonna read too much into it, but he did get he did get physically uncomfortable when he was asked if he made a mistake.
Yeah.
So I think he knows and doesn't want to admit it. Although he does admit to some, like, vague sense of, like, cowardice in moments and, like, certain mistakes he has made, but, like, there's some stuff that he didn't own up to that maybe he could have.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Oh, do you want to talk about the P tape pretty quickly?
Yeah, what about it?
I just think it's funny.
Oh, I thought it was so funny. How many times he said prostitutes urinating on the bed or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what the exact phrasing was, but he kept saying, well, it's a shocking thing to have to say that prostitutes.
But I don't know if it's not true. I think he's also very uncomfortable with that aspect of it. He's a good old boy. He just doesn't like talking about that stuff.
No, it makes him uncomfortable.
Sort of like puritanical. I can't do it.
That fucking tape exists. It is out there. That is for real. I don't know if we'll ever see it, but I believe in its existence.
I believe we will see it.
Yeah.
If we choose to. Every individual will have the opportunity to see it.
If they so desire.
But yeah, it's pretty real, right?
I will say that my actual least favorite part of the interview is when he says, I hope he doesn't get impeached because this is who the American people voted for. And this is what we get, essentially. What? Are you out of your mind? There was foreign intervention in our election. He colluded with the government. No, we'll come back to that in a second. What do you mean you don't hope he gets impeached? We have that process as an option to protect in these situations.
Yeah.
The other thing that really bothered me was his inability to own up to the fact that it was a mistake to announce that they were reopening the Hillary Clinton email case 11 days before the election, and that he never, ever disclosed that they were investigating Trump and the Trump campaign for colluding with Russia.
They were investigating his
people regardless.
But yes.
Regardless. That's
right.
But they didn't say that they were actually, I mean, they just said that they were reopening the Clinton case. They weren't saying that they were looking at Huma Abedin's things.
Yeah.
They said it was her. So regardless, it's a ridiculous double standard that he was invoking
Yeah, he still
here.
can't seem to own up to that. And there's this, and aside from the fact that like all former like directors of the FBI and just like everybody's like, yeah, you should have, you picked and you chose.
This is a universal consensus.
You picked and you chose. But he also says like, well, with the Trump case, like I didn't want to reveal that also because, we didn't know we had anything.
Right.
We didn't know we had anything. And this moment in the interview was maybe a minute after he talked about how when he got the emails from Huma's laptop that like he didn't know they had anything.
Right.
Like he literally said like, yeah, we didn't know if there were new emails or not. We didn't know what we had. And then a minute later, he's like, well, we didn't want to reveal the
exactly.
Trump investigation because we didn't know we had. Okay, man. So, like, what? Did you write this down in your book and then read your book? Because maybe you'd notice it then.
Yeah.
Whatever. Thanks for the interview, James. I'm not going to
Big
buy your
fat
book.
waste of my time. And now for a word from our sponsor.
Today's Even More News presenting sponsor is George Soros.
George Soros?
The app.
The app.
Do you have any sort of left-leaning ideas?
I do.
Do you want people to have health care?
I sure do.
Do you want maybe a single-payer system?
Oh, boy, I do.
Where, like, we tax the grotesquely wealthy and maybe roll back some of our military efforts abroad and then use that money to keep people healthy and alive and educated.
Sounds good to me.
Well, you should download this app, the George Soros app. And if you put in promo code whatever, then you will get money.
Money?
Money.
From George Soros?
Mm-hmm. If you just sort of have these ideas and you want to express them online, say that you did that, he'll give you money. If you see that there's a protest outside and it sort of lines up with these ideas and you go and you join that protest,
I'll get money?
Put it in the app, you'll get the money. If you really say anything at all that isn't supportive of any of these kinds of ideas, tell the app, you get the money.
I'm going to be rich, baby.
Yes, I already am rich, thanks to the George Soros app, brought to you by, I don't know, The Truth. Download it now. Promo code whatever.
And we're back. Ugh, yeah, here we are again. Welcome back, y'all. Thanks for listening to that commercial. We need our sponsors.
Yep.
That's how we stay afloat here. What else should we talk about? Do you have stuff that's burning on your mind?
I've got things burning on my mind, but it's mostly going in the show that I'm going to write tonight.
Yeah. Give us a little preview.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Sean Hannity. I think.
Boy.
Because he's just a joy.
Yeah, and he's having a week.
Having a life. He is having a week, and it's not gonna do anything, because we're actually run by liars, and most people are liars.
What do you mean it's not going to do anything?
Like he's like this information that he's been defending. So he's been defending the president's personal lawyer for weeks, and didn't disclose that he was also his own lawyer. And then he says like, oh, well, he's not really my lawyer. I just like asked him advice
on real estate.
I believe the exact quote was almost exclusively real estate. Hey, Sean, what's the almost about?
Right.
You keep, and like he said it in his tweets. He said it on his show. Whenever he talks about it, he says almost exclusively real estate. What is the almost, Sean? Why do you keep saying almost?
That's the part we're concerned about.
God. And so like he did this, and he didn't disclose that like maybe a journalist would. And not to say that like, again, like we just talked about Stephanopoulos being Clinton's cabinet.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that's like a direct conflict of interest, but it's worth
a
noting.
concern.
It's worth noting beforehand. And, there are cases like that all over the place because of just how the world is and
Sure.
the media operates. It's not great, but just tell us that he's your lawyer, man.
Just disclose it. Who was on his show last night? Alan
Dershowitz.
Dershowitz, I can never pronounce it. And he even said that to him.
Yeah.
He was like, you should have disclosed this.
Right, of all people, Alan Dershowitz. Like,
I mean, come on, man.
Ugh.
Come
on,
on,
man.
That's our new section.
Come
on,
on,
man.
man.
That's this week's Come On, Man is Sean Hannity.
Yeah. To wrap up this Come On, Man segment, it's just like, because also he just keeps tweeting like, what about he's not my personal lawyer. I just asked him for advice. Do you not understand? Maybe the part where in front of a federal judge he said you were his client.
Yeah, and it's weird.
Like, but we should believe your tweet from the like lying
you
dummy
are
on TV?
the third of 3 clients that this man represents
Has claimed to have in front of a federal judge.
and the cases that he was handling for the other 2 involved illegal payments for affairs and cover-ups. And I'm sorry, but that just doesn't look good for you. His other specialty is real estate, though.
It doesn't look good for you.
It doesn't look good, man.
It doesn't look good for you.
And you have to understand that people see that. So if you don't have anything to hide, be a little bit more forthcoming in general.
But Fox just released a statement like, we're not, we stand by him and so on. And of course, he's gets great ratings. He's like the highest paid. He's like $36 million a year, something like that.
Ugh, gross.
Disgusting. And he's got a direct line to the president, direct line from the president. They're buddies. The president used to call him all the time after his show and talk about him. There's obviously influence there.
Yeah.
And he's obviously every single day talking about Hillary Clinton because he knows that his buddy's watching and his buddy's the president.
Yeah.
And so nothing's going to happen. He's a liar, and I'm gonna probably get into this in the show.
Yeah, you've got a lot to say that we're not getting into here.
Yeah, so. I don't think. I know everyone's like, oh, we gotta kick Hannity off the air. He's got no ethics. He's a bad journalist, and those are all true.
Sure.
But no, make him stay on the air. He is so like cut his salary. Maybe he shouldn't be making $36 million a year. But like he's so much fun to watch in these trying times. He's a dumb man, and I'm not gonna get into that because who has the time? But I think he's a dumb person. I don't think he's a smart man. Mm-hmm. And he's a liar. He lies a lot.
Sure.
And he's just desperate to defend the president. And the president, I don't know if you know, is not a very smart man.
No.
I'm sorry.
But he's the president.
No, I'm sorry. Anyone can be president.
I had heard that.
You should tell your children.
I will tell my children.
Anyone.
And the percentage of women who are running for office.
Actually, my 4-year-old daughter, did you know that in 2014, okay. So the president's a dumb man, and he's also a liar, and he's involved in crimes,
like Sean Hannity.
Possibly Sean Hannity. Who knows?
Well, the first two, for sure.
Yeah, who knows if Sean Hannity is involved in crimes? His lawyer, who his lawyer is might be indicative of that, but like we don't know that. So he's just not a smart man. But if you watch his show, it can be frustrating because he's obviously like trying to divert attention away from all these stories about the president and trying to talk about like the Uranium One deal, which he completely misunderstands every time he mentions it. Things like that. And he's like, oh, what about the Clinton crime family? You know, Donna Brazile, she gave she gave a question to Hillary before the debate. That's not a crime.
Right.
That's unethical. And she got punished for it.
Right.
And that's not good. But also, like, in a presidential debate, like, the 6 things you're going to be asked.
Right. The general topics that are going to be covered.
But, like, when you say like, the Clinton crime family and you mention giving a debate question, that's not a crime, Sean.
Right. And you yourself, Sean, happen to be a part of a crime family.
Right. So it's very entertaining to watch to me personally, and I've talked about this before, I think a little bit, but like if let's say impeachment is on the table and it happens, and James Comey, his plan for the American people to vote him out instead of impeach him is on the table. So let's say he's being impeached. That is going to be the best television we have ever seen in our lives, and I'm not only talking about like Like Don Jr., I want to see testify on camera in front of a bunch of very talented, smart lawyers.
Oh, that'd be so
That's gonna
satisfying.
be just, oh my God, that like the chef is gonna kiss his fingers to the bone.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be amazing. So there's that element of like the world's dumbest crime family is on trial.
Oh, can't wait.
Because also, like, if you look historically at the president's depositions in cases he's been involved in, he doesn't remember anything when he's under oath. Despite having, I believe it's the greatest memory of all time, one of the great memories of all time. So he doesn't remember stuff, and that's going to be fun to watch. And hopefully when he says, I don't recall, someone will be like, but you said you have the best memory of all time. Because also in one of his depositions, someone mentioned, oh, you've said in the past that you had one of the best memories. And he's like, I don't remember saying that. Amazing. Incredible. So that's going to be fun to watch. But if you tune into Fox News, you'll see Sean Hannity,
Yes.
a dumb liar, just sweating, trying his hardest, his very, very best to make this seem okay.
Yep.
It's gonna be so fun to watch. He's gonna like be flopping around on his belly, gasping for air.
Oh, yeah.
Because he needs to be in the water, but he can't because all these criminals are on trial.
God, next season of this show is gonna be so lit.
So yeah, I don't want to obviously diminish the awful things that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
administration is
Sean
doing.
Hannity is one of the worst things about America.
He's a detriment to a lot of our society. He's bad. I think he's bad for us.
I think so, yeah.
So I sort of go back and forth on this. I think he's bad and should go, but also he's the liar, dumb president on trial, and then the one guy who is like
defender.
He's charged with defending him, and
Yeah.
he has to every night on TV, and that's gonna be just good TV.
Yeah, unless he bails on that sinking ship when it's too obvious.
Well,
We'll see. Well, we're almost done, but I wanted to do a real quick #WeToo update.
Me too.
Just a little one. I think this falls under the We Too. Last week, I'm not sure if you guys saw, there was a Hollywood Reporter article about Charlie Rose, and it was called Charlie Rose's Life Now Broken, Brilliant, and Lonely. I guess the right way to say that would be Charlie Rose's life now, broken, brilliant, and lonely. And then like the slug line refers to the devastating allegations against him. And I found that really infuriating. And then some people were interacting saying like, what's wrong with that? What's the problem with that headline? It's just saying that it had an effect on him. But no, it is saying that it had an effect, but it's sympathetic. It's poetic. It's painting him as this lonely old man. Calling the allegations devastating is diminishing to the women. There's all these reports. It's like preying on our sympathies. Like
Right,
he
weren't
can't.
the incidents devastating to those women?
Yeah, is that what you mean? Because that's not the way that this is written. And it says that his housekeeper. He can't leave the house, so his housekeeper has to go and get him food and bring it back.
Okay, he can leave the house.
I mean, yeah.
Charlie Rose, you can leave the house, man. Do you think people are gonna on the street be like, oh, "That's Charlie Rose"?
Yeah.
I'm gonna harass him.
Right.
And maybe that's true. Maybe that does happen.
Maybe it is.
I
Maybe
don't
you're
know.
embarrassed. Good, I'm glad.
Who ran that article?
It was the Hollywood Reporter, so hard-hitting journalism here.
Sure.
But they do have some
They
good
do good
journalists
stuff, yeah.
there, actually. So this was a little surprising and disappointing.
Well, it's sort of how they tend to not they Hollywood Reporter, but like how the media tends to portray like school shooters or like domestic terrorists.
Right.
Like, oh, he was bullied, or like, yeah, he's just a quiet, kept to himself, and
Yeah.
it's just the whole sort of way of painting these people as victims, which one could argue that they're victims of society.
Sure.
And that has led them to their choices, but they're also their choices, and their choices were abhorrent.
Yes.
So maybe writing like fawning reports like that
aren't appropriate
when any person of color is shot by the police is painted as a thug who, and like they don't literally say in these articles that like, oh, they deserved it, but that's the tone. Like in this one, the tone is like, oh, poor Charlie Rose. And in these other ones, the tone is like, well, they were no angel,
Right.
they ran, they asked for it. Did they ask to get shot and die?
Yeah. I think it's irresponsible reporting, and I think that we've all talked about this, and we'll continue to discuss it because it's important. But we need to learn how to be better, and that's what this time can bring. That's like the highlight of the takeaway from this that we can take moving forward.
Yeah, I have one more thing actually I want to talk about.
Oh,
real quick.
good.
Just really
Just
quick.
real quick.
The police shooting made me think of this. I'm a fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes.
I think it's a really good show.
Yes.
It's very funny, very diverse. They have a bi character on there now. It's very and even a lot of times when someone brings up when someone says something scuzzy, Jake Peralta will respond
We'll call it out,
that's
sure.
that's transphobic
That's
and
gross.
stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Or like when they talk about addiction, they talk about how addiction is a real problem, and like if you weren't a murderer, I wouldn't be so flippant. Stuff like that. They try their best to paint, while painting literally all of the cops as like great people. They do try to sort of point to like certain problems in the justice system, even though they could be a little more. They probably don't want to get political. I understand that. Anyway, something I noticed that I think that they should actually maybe address. There are so many moments, and I think I know why this happens. There's so many moments in that show where they pull out their guns all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
I just watched an episode where they were going after some guy for fraud. It was just a fraud case. And Peralta immediately pulls out his gun and points it in the door and goes in. And it's just I don't like how flippantly they just have people pulling out their guns, and whether or not that's what cops do, that's you're making art, you're influencing culture.
Yes.
So don't beam into our brains that this is just what cops do.
Right.
They just always pull out their guns.
This is going along with what we were talking about a few weeks ago when we talked about guns. That there is a responsibility in Hollywood to portray guns more accurately, not to desensitize us to them, to be more responsible. So if you're after a fraud case, pull out your gun before you go in the apartment, and then you point it at him, and then he runs out the window, and you chase after him with your gun. It's are you gonna shoot the guy? Right.
What? Why?
You aren't.
You aren't. Does he have a gun? No, he's running.
Right. There's no need for that. Put it away and run.
And there are a lot of moments. I think part of it's probably just it looks cool when I pull out my gun. I got this prop gun, and I'm gonna do that. And it would it'd just be neat if that was downplayed a little bit or diminished a little bit.
So if you're listening, Brooklyn Nine-Nine writers, we love your show a lot. Both of us do, but there is a little room for improvement in that area.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a show about police at this day and age, obviously you're taking responsibility for a lot of things, but just
good job on that.
Good job on that. But
small note, not small note, big note.
Big note. But
could be a worse note.
Could be a worse note.
All right. Thanks you guys for listening to us chat about things we care about.
Thanks so much, everybody.
And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel because we'll have a new episode of some more news for you this weekend on Sunday.
That's true.
That
and
is
then
true.
Check out the Patreon as well.
All that stuff. Share this. Give us a I guess it's not likes on iTunes. It's just subscribe. Give us a rating and a comment.
Subscribe and rate and comment.
And
help those algorithms.
Help those algorithms, and we'll give you all our love.
Love you.
Love you.